You're listening to Storytime, old time radio for a new era. Thank you for joining us. In this series, we feature Terry Morgan reading from her work, The Ambassador, a fun, family-friendly sci-fi martial arts adventure. Previously, the ambassador and her team arrived on Magellan. The doctor used the ancient jewel of Aaron to heal a small boy. Then he showed the Cora how to make a healing tonic. In this episode, the ambassador and her team are on their way back to the Magellan when they encounter the Olmeri. The ambassador uses the ancient arts to deceive the Olmeri. The Magellan returns safely to Dagon. For her next mission, the High Council sends the ambassador to Pelscara to sort out a treaty problem. It doesn't go well. As we begin this episode, the ambassador and her team are quite pleased. They've made friends with the Cora. The doctor's research and healing skills help more than any equipment or seeds they could have offered. The ambassador was given more in the treaty than she expected. Everyone is pleased. Everyone benefits. That is one of the keys throughout the stories. Everyone benefits. I could have written a different story with a different outcome. They could have found a very different world. Things could have turned out differently. I could have put more conflict into the story. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to dwell on conflict. I wanted to pay attention to solutions. How do we find solutions? In the story, the ambassador needs a way to earn trust. That's a problem. The doctor looks at the problems the Cora have. How to solve a problem for the Cora. He finds a problem with a solution. He doesn't go looking for random problems. He knows problems already exist. He has to look at them to know what solutions might be possible. He looks at what he can find. He asks questions. He applies what he knows. Then he goes looking for the possible. That process is fundamentally the real-world scientific method. I use that concept for how the doctor works through questions. It's part of who he is. I use various real-world connections to inform all the characters. That grounding is important for the stories. I didn't want an untethered universe. We have many new and strange universes in the sci-fi world. That's one reason I chose the genre. I could create a fictional world with all sorts of adventurous and interesting people. Plato and Socrates could come along. So could Confucius, Descartes, Galileo, Shakespeare, and quite a few others. And unlike historical fiction, I didn't have to be confined to time and place other than whatever I decided. I wanted to keep some of the real world. I wanted to keep the connections to our shared humanity. The characters grow, learn, grow older, and pass on. That human experience is fundamental to the story. Of course, character development is part of every story. The way the characters interact and develop are how the writer envisions the story. What sort of changes do the characters make? How do they change? Sometimes this is given in certain time. A few days, a week perhaps, maybe even a few months. The characters in The Ambassador experience time in years. They get older. Age is part of the story. The characters talk about their youth, their age, and remember things they did. This episode opens with Namani calling the ambassador. She's on her shuttle. She sat down for a minute to rest her eyes and dozed off. She's getting older. She knows it. Namani knows it too. He also knows how hard she works. Their mission to Magellan had not gone well by accident or chance. They worked for it. They prepared. They made plans. Their encounter with the Olmeri tests their skills and teamwork in another way. They have to prepare for it on the fly. The ambassador's next mission is a different kind of challenge. The Central Alliance has been trying to finalize a treaty with Pelscara, but the negotiations keep stalling. The ambassador has been sent to get it sorted out. She discovers the problems have nothing to do with the negotiations and everything to do with the Pelscarans. The Pelscarans look for ways to diminish others. They are selfish. They want to take everything they can for themselves. Anyone they consider less than doesn't matter. They look at the ambassador more as a waitress, not as a diplomat. How we see others and how others see us makes a difference in the real world, too. Our perception of who another person is can be true or not. The place, time of day, clothing, and all sorts of things color our perceptions. We need to be able to look through the illusions to find what's true. I'll be right back. Now, a reading from the Ambassador, Chapter 3, A Little Nap, the Ambassador Shuttle. Namani was already at the shuttle to get the treaty folders for the signing. He was looking down at a small table. He looked up just as the Ambassador walked up the ramp. He picked up one of the two presentation folders on the table. It was a folio-sized binder, covered in a leathery dark red paper with gold accents at the corners. The edges had a narrow trim of mother of pearl that glistened when the books were opened. "What do you think, Ambassador?" Namani asked. "Very nice. Let me see," the Ambassador said. She reached out her hand. Namani handed her the folder. The Ambassador looked at the inlay and bindings closely. "Your workmanship rivals my grandfather's. This is perfect. Do you have the agreement?" she asked. Namani grinned proudly. "Already mounted," he said. He picked up and opened the other folder to show her. The Ambassador opened the folder she had, looked at the agreement, and smiled. "Nice. This is," she asked. "The one with everything," Namani said, smiling really big. "I didn't think we'd be using it," the Ambassador said. She shook her head. "But you wrote it. It was in your archive," Namani protested. "Well, yes, I wrote 5 versions. This is my what if we got everything we wanted and more version. I wasn't really expecting to use it," the Ambassador said. She shrugged, shook her head, and handed the folder back to Namani. "You always tell us it's good to be prepared," Namani reminded her. The Ambassador laughed. "Well, yes," she said. "I'll take these with me and go see what I can do to help the doctor and Beth. I'm sure Kell isn't pleased," Namani said. He turned to go out the door. "Likely not. He's not much on chair shuffling." "Thank you. I'll be along in just a minute," the Ambassador said. Namani started back toward the city at a brisk walk. The Ambassador took off her sash and outer robe. If she was going to be rummaging around in storage, they would just get in the way. She went into the storage area in the back of the shuttle and started opening the bins. "I thought we had some," she muttered. She opened another cabinet. "Nope, hardware." "Ah, here we go," she said. She pulled 2 large bottles of tonic water off the shelf, put them in a bag, looked over at the door, and looked down at her chair. She went over to the chair and sat down. "I'll just rest my eyes, just for a minute," she thought. She sat back in the seat. Namani's voice came through the comm terminal. "Ambassador, the ministers are almost ready," he said. The Ambassador sat up abruptly. "Can you give me 10 minutes?" she asked. She knew this was tricky. Delays of any sort always had to be explained. "I was taking a nap" was not ever going to be on the list of acceptable reasons for a delay. "Yes, Ambassador? Beth has been having a little trouble with the lighting. It's likely going to take her another few minutes to check," Namani offered. "Oh, I like him. I really like him," the Ambassador thought. She took a deep breath. "I'll be there as quickly as possible. I have something else we need to do," she said. She closed the link. She'd need to get a move on to get back to the city in 10 minutes. She stood up, put her outer robe and sash back on, making sure her personal insignia and that of the Alliance were clearly visible. A faint purple glow came from inside her robes. She picked up the bag with the 2 bottles in it and walked out. The shuttle door closed. "Shall we go in?" Kalin council chambers. They had set a large table in the center of the atrium for the treaty signing. The ministers were milling around in the hall and in groups scattered around the council chambers. Small jars of the tonic mixture and cups with the chamomile flowers had been placed at each minister's seat. The meal the doctor had arranged was ready. He and Minister Norla were standing off to one side. Beth had set up just far enough back to get several ministers in the main shot and not so far back as to be too distant from where the ambassador and Minister Boron would speak. Namani was standing just inside the entryway with Kell. Namani, the ambassador whispered. She was just outside the entryway. Namani raised his eyebrows and hurried over to her. That was quick. We're almost ready, he said. The ambassador interrupted him. These 2 bottles are tonic water from our stores. I need 2 glasses with a wedge of lime for each, she said. She grinned and turned her head to one side. Namani looked at her sideways. Of course you do, he said. He smiled and shook his head. He looked around. He spotted some empty glasses in the kitchen where the doctor had been working. He went to get them, scooped up 2 wedges of lime the doctor had cut, and hurried back to where the ambassador was waiting, 1 glass in each hand. The ambassador put down one of the bottles and opened the other one. Hold still, she said. She poured a little into each glass. She put the bottle down and took both glasses from him. Can you find a way to get the rest of this into some glasses with a wedge of lime for each of the council members, she asked. Namani raised his eyebrows and frowned. Sure. Would you like some nice dinner mints to go with? Can I announce you first? He asked. Thank you, Namani. Your ability to do the impossible does not go unnoticed, the ambassador said. Namani smiled quietly at the compliment. He moved to the center of the entryway. First Minister Boron of the High Council of Kalin and Ambassador Michael Lawrence of the Central Alliance, he announced. His clear, deep voice resonated through the chamber. Beth had been doing some general reporting. She turned to focus on the ambassador. The ambassador walked over to the table and put both glasses down. Minister Boron joined her. He looked at the glasses and frowned slightly, but didn't ask. The ambassador smiled and nodded. Minister Boron looked around the room, then at the ambassador. Ambassador Lawrence, it is my great honor, on behalf of the people of the 4 planets of Kalin, to sign this treaty and to begin a long and fruitful cooperation between the people of Kalin and the Central Alliance. We thank you for what you have already done for our people. We welcome your friendship and this alliance, he said. The ambassador bowed. First Minister Boron, it is my great privilege on behalf of the Central Alliance to sign this treaty and to begin the exchange of knowledge and cooperation between the Central Alliance and the people of Kalin. We thank you for your friendship and welcome this alliance, she said. The folders Namani had prepared were neatly placed for each of them. These old-style printed folders were rarely used except for important treaties and signings like this. Each folder carried the Central Alliance seal and the ambassador's personal seal, along with engravings to commemorate the event. Each was unique and highly prized in the black market, too. Namani stepped from behind where they were talking and to open the folders. They each signed. Namani stepped up again to switch the copies. They each signed again. Namani picked up the ambassador's folder and walked over to where Beth and Kell were standing. Keep this for me, please, he asked Beth. I'm going to go be a waiter now. I need to find some glasses, he said. There were several trays of glasses behind the second counter. I'll come with. Kell can keep the folder and my gear. Here, Beth said. She handed Kell her recorder. Kell smiled. Thanks. I'd much rather be recording than schlepping, he said. I'll be right back. The ambassador turned to face Boran and smiled at him. Minister Boran, I have brought you some tonic water from our stores. It is much the same as the tonic our doctor has shown your people how to make. We would like to offer this small sample as a token of our friendship, she said. She extended her hand, inviting him to choose a glass. Minister Boran hesitated, then picked up one of the glasses. The ambassador picked up the other glass. May you and your people enjoy good health and great prosperity, she said. She raised her glass and took a drink. Minister Boran looked down at the clear bubbling liquid. He cautiously took a sip. This is good. I like it, he said. He raised his glass and took another sip. The ambassador raised her glass again. To a long friendship, she said. Minister Boran raised his glass. They both took another drink. The other ministers applauded. They began to migrate to the signing table to extend their greetings. It seemed they all wanted a picture with the ambassador, too. It took a few minutes for them all to file through. While that was going on, Namani and Beth put glasses of tonic water out for each of the ministers. Then they went back over to where Kell was standing. Kell smiled at Beth and handed her the recorder. Thanks, Beth said. You're welcome, Kell replied. Namani moved around a little, trying to get the ambassador's attention. It didn't take much. The ambassador looked over at him. Namani nodded. The ambassador smiled. Minister Boran, we had enough of the tonic for all your ministers to try it. Namani and Beth have set a glass for everyone, she said quietly. Minister Boran smiled at her and shook his head. You are quite amazing, he said. He raised his hand for quiet. Fellow ministers, I told you in our earlier meeting about the child Relna and the disease Nang. I have also told you the Central Alliance has offered to show us how to make a treatment that can stop this disease that does so much harm to our people, he said. The ministers all nodded. Those small containers next to your seating places are that treatment. We need to wait 3 days for it to be ready, he said. He stopped to let them take in what he was saying. The ministers each reached for their containers and began examining them. They began talking excitedly. Minister Boran held up his hand for quiet. Our chief science minister, Norla, has learned how to make this tonic. We can make as much as we need, he said. The room grew completely quiet. Minister Boran looked around. He held up the glass the ambassador had given him. Those small glasses you now have are this very tonic. Let us celebrate our good fortune and our new friends. A glass of tonic for everyone, he exclaimed. He raised his glass high. He looked over at the ambassador. The ministers all raised their glasses and waited for him to finish the toast. To the Central Alliance, Minister Boran said. He took a drink. The ambassador raised her glass, took a sip, looked around the room, and smiled quietly. The ministers each took a sip, looked at each other, and cheered. To Kaylin, they cried out together. The dinner was perfect. They had several lively discussions with the ministers. It seemed they had quite a lot in common with the Cora. They stayed a few days to make arrangements for their negotiating teams to return. Then they headed toward their rendezvous with the Magellan. Truffles and champagne. The ambassador's shuttle. The ambassador, Namani, Beth, the doctor, and Kell were on her shuttle. They were on their way to meet the Magellan. Kell had just set the coordinates for their path out of the Kalan system. The ambassador and Namani were happily reviewing their trip reports. Beth was cleaning one of the camera lenses. The doctor picked up his surprise bag. He looked straight at the ambassador. We definitely have something to celebrate this time. And I have brought along just the thing. It will go perfectly with that bottle of champagne Captain Logan gave us, he said. Oh, really, Doctor? What is it that goes with champagne? The ambassador asked. The doctor grinned. Truffles, he said. The ambassador laughed. She stood up, walked over to a side cabinet, and took out some cups. Yes, truffles go well with champagne, and where, pray tell, did you find truffles? She asked. The doctor smiled. He took a small box out of his bag. I made them, he said proudly. What are truffles? Beth asked. These are truffles, the doctor said in his best. You are now going to listen to my lecture voice. He opened the box. Excuse me. Sometimes. What are truffles? Beth asked. These are truffles, the doctor said in his best. You are now going to listen to my lecture voice. He opened the box. Inside were 10 small, round, dark chocolates covered with pink, blue, green, and rose color icing. Truffles are an old earth delicacy. First, you must start with fine chocolate. It must be blended and warmed just so. Then you must create the filling, he said. Beth and Nemani looked at each other. Filling? Beth asked. Yes. The filling must be delicate and creamy, while the outer layer must be firm and solid, the doctor said. He grinned as he extended the box to each of them. Do you ever sleep, Doctor? Beth asked. She shook her head. The doctor smiled. Try this one, he said. He pointed to one with rose-color icing. Beth took it gingerly. It's so light, she said. She took a small bite. Her eyes got bigger and she grinned. Oh my, that's delicious, she said. The ambassador grinned. We should open the champagne. Nemani, do you want to open the bottle? She asked. Nemani shook his head. The ambassador smiled and reached for the bottle. She put a small cloth over the top and wiggled it. There was a loud pop as the cork came out. A little liquid bubbled out. Where's your cup? The ambassador asked the doctor. Here, the doctor said. He put his cup under the top to catch the overflow. The ambassador poured more into his cup, then poured some for the others. She took one of the truffles. Cheers and job well done, she said. She raised her arms, a cup in one hand and a truffle in the other. Kell had set the autopilot and was standing next to Nemani. Nemani looked down at his cup. It was bubbling. He looked over at Kell. He shook his head. Kell looked at his cup and then at Nemani. He shook his head. He started to put the cup down. The ambassador frowned. I know you aren't fond of trying new foods. Just try a little, she asked. Kell took a sip and promptly spit it back into the cup. He cringed. Maybe not this one, he said. The ambassador smiled and nodded. It's an acquired taste. I'm happy you tried it. At least now you know what it is, she said. Kell frowned a little. Nemani looked at his cup again. He took a sip. What a wonderful thing, he said. He smiled and crinkled his nose. He took another sip and another. He looked at the box with the colorful chocolates and back at his cup, then at the box again. Doctor, could I try one of those truffle things? He asked. The doctor held out the box and smiled playfully. Try a blue one, he said. Nemani took one. As he bit into it, a bit of the creamy chocolate filling oozed out. Oh, he said, his eyes getting bigger just like Beth's. Oh, that is good. Will you show me how to make these? He asked. The doctor laughed. Sure, I'd be happy to, he said. Beth and the ambassador laughed out loud. Are you going to practice not sleeping too? Beth asked. Nemani and the doctor looked at each other and grinned. Kell stepped over to the controls to check on their position. Their route out of the system was going to take them very close to one of the outer planets. He wanted to make sure they kept a good distance as they went around it. Would you try one of these, Kell? The ambassador asked, walking over to him with the box of truffles. Kell looked at her sideways. After that champagne stuff, he wasn't really in the mood to try another new thing, but he couldn't tell her no. He took a breath. He looked at the box. He picked one with the rose color that Beth liked. He took a really tiny bite. He had decided he was going to swallow it no matter how awful it was, so smaller was better. Oh my goodness, he said, using an expression he'd learned from the ambassador. He had the same appreciation in his voice as Beth and Nemani. Doctor, these truffles are very nice. We should have more truffles, he said. He smiled broadly and reached for the box. The ambassador grinned. Kell took another truffle and went over to sit in his chair so he could watch the controls. He took a bite and smiled. I didn't expect these truffle things would be so good, he thought. Company has arrived. The Ambassador shuttle outside the Magellan. Kell adjusted their course just slightly to move them further away from the outer planet. He was at the controls monitoring their route for any stray rocks. Ambassador, Kell said, his voice ominous. We have company. The ambassador went over to stand next to Kell's chair. She looked out the main viewer. She could barely make out a ship that seemed to be coming toward them from outside the system. She looked at his navigation screen. It was definitely coming towards them. Have they seen us? She asked. I don't know, Kell said. Where's the Magellan? The ambassador asked. Kell pointed at a different screen with a longer range. There. They are holding in place at the rendezvous coordinates. The ambassador looked at the screens and the oncoming ship. We can't get to the Magellan before they cut us off. Can you get us into the asteroid belt? She asked. She knew he could, and she knew full well what she was asking. Kell looked at her. Do you know what you're asking? This ship isn't fitted. I can do it, but it won't be an easy ride, he said. The ambassador nodded. I have a very bad feeling about that ship. I learned a long time ago to trust my feelings about such things. We can't let them take us. We can't fight. The Magellan is too far away. There isn't any other option, she said. She turned around to the others. Everyone, she said, with a serious tone that got their attention. Put away everything. Tie down anything that might come loose, and strap yourselves in tightly. We need to avoid a meeting, and we're going to take a detour. The ride is going to get a little bumpy, she said. She was trying to be light-hearted about it, but she was quite serious. They all saw it and did what she asked. She turned to Kell. Mie wachin nie yampero, nie chin kata oki, oye chin keteja. I trust you. You will succeed. Do whatever you must, she said. It was more of a command than encouragement. She turned to the others. Prepare yourselves, she admonished them. Kell maneuvered behind the outermost planet and used it to increase the speed of the shuttle. He plotted the shortest path possible toward the asteroid belt. If they were lucky, the approaching ship would see them as a wayward asteroid and not bother with them. He looped around the planet and had covered about half the distance to the belt when he noticed the other ship increasing their speed to overtake them. Ambassador, they have started trying to overtake us, but they're too far away, he said. He aligned the shuttle with the asteroid belt and slid into a stream. The ship came up alongside where they entered the belt, slowed, and began to follow them from the outside of the belt. Kell made the twists and turns seem effortless, but it was more than a bumpy ride. The turns tossed them back and forth, side to side. Sometimes there were up and down turns, too. Vertical was not something any of them often felt on a starship or even smaller craft. The stabilizers took care of that. Usually they weren't flying patterns either. Kell was pushing the shuttle well beyond its design specs. He found a substream and turned into it. He followed it to the inside edge of the belt and started looking for an exit. He found a path and emerged from the belt. The ship that had been following them was on the outside. Captain Logan, are you there? The ambassador asked into the comlink. She was a bit dazed. Kell had been with her a long time, and she'd flown on some wild rides with him. This was going to be one for the storybooks. I'll be right back. We're here, Ambassador. We will be ready to receive your shuttle shortly, Captain Logan replied. Captain, sooner would be better. We are closer than you think. We have some new friends in a ship on the other side of the belt looking for us, and we'd rather not meet them on my shuttle, she said, quickly giving him the situation. I understand, Ambassador, Captain Logan said. He signaled to his officers to scramble. We have received your new flight path from Kell. We will be ready on this side in just under 20 seconds, he said. Ambassador, they are trying to block us, Kell said. He pointed at the other ship. It had just dropped under the asteroid belt. It began to accelerate rapidly and aggressively toward the shuttle. Captain, can you paint them and open up one of those asteroids without them realizing it was you? The ambassador asked. Captain Logan turned his head to one side quizzically and looked at his screens. Yes, Ambassador, we can absolutely do that. Lieutenant Cady, please acquire the targets and fire, he said. He smiled at the usefulness of their preparations and drills. He'd been against seeding the belt. It seemed like something they would never use. Now he had an entirely new appreciation for her planning skills. How she'd seen this coming, he had no idea. Targets acquired. Target 1 painted. Target 2 destroyed, Captain, Lieutenant Cady said. The other ship began gradually slowing down and kept slowing until it was barely moving at all. The ship's hull had immediately started attracting chunks of asteroid along with the cobalt they'd sprinkled in the belt. The barnacles followed, and they were hungry. Ambassador, we have another problem, Kell said. He pointed at a long-range screen showing a larger ship coming toward them. We need to get back to the Magellan, the ambassador said, and a note of determination and anxiety came through in her voice. She hadn't recognized the first ship. It was a design she'd not seen. She recognized the second. That's an Olmeri ship, she said. Kell accelerated toward the Magellan, slid into a docking bay, and parked the shuttle. As soon as they stopped, the ambassador got up, pulled her formal robes out of her bag, and started putting them on over her travel clothes. Doctor, please get dressed and come with me. I will need your help. Beth, set up 3 stations. Just show a treaty signing. You know what we need. Namani, take care of background. Use the oldest approach footage we have. Kell, tactical flight auxiliary, she said. The Olmeri were a surly lot that wanted to argue about every little tiny thing. She wanted to bypass the arguing and get straight to the part about them leaving. An invitation to dinner. Bridge on the Magellan. The ambassador and the doctor stepped off the transport platform onto the bridge of the Magellan. The ambassador was wearing her formal gold and rust-colored robes with her sash and medals. The doctor wore his formal turquoise and dark blue robes. Everyone, including Captain Logan, turned to look at them. They didn't often see keepers wearing their colors. The ambassador took a position directly in front of the main screen. Captain, I've asked Kell to go to auxiliary flight control. I hope we don't need him. Beth, are you and Namani ready? She asked. The comm links on the wall behind her lit up. Yes, Ambassador, Namani replied. Yes, Ambassador, Beth replied. Captain Logan, would you please hail our friends with video? I'd like to speak with them, the ambassador asked. She turned to face the screen and took a fighting stance, her feet well placed and apart. You want to speak with them? They just tried to hijack your shuttle. They've not been friendly. Why are you even? Captain Logan asked. The ambassador turned to face Captain Logan. She looked directly at him and said nothing. Captain Logan wasn't sure what happened, but he knew with complete confidence that he was going to do exactly what she asked. Yes, Ambassador, he said. She turned back to face the screen. She signaled Beth and Namani. The doctor stepped behind her. He took a position just behind her left shoulder and set his foot outside hers, joining earth and water. He was going to help support her weight and add his skills to hers, while she focused on misdirecting the Olmeri. What they were doing was barely visible outwardly. They didn't want it to be. They wanted it to appear as if they were simply standing close together. The comlink opened. The ambassador could see the bridge of the Olmeri ship. She closed her right foot and stood straight. She crossed her arms, extended both hands, palms up, close to the center, and bowed. I am Ambassador Micah Lawrence, daughter of Tor Iran of Vega 9 and first disciple of Tai Aragon of Razalhag. I offer you greetings on behalf of the Central Alliance, she said. She opened her stance, turning just slightly so the back of her shoulder rested against the doctor's chest. The Olmeri captain and his officers were clearly surprised to see her and couldn't hide it. They knew about the masters of Rasalhague. Their expeditions had met a few of the keepers, and they would prefer not to meet any of them ever again. Every time they met one of these keepers, they had to retreat. Every time. They didn't like it. Not at all. Greetings, Ambassador, the Olmeri captain replied. We had no idea you were aboard. From the erratic way that shuttle was flying, it seemed to us it was lost and did not have an adequate pilot. We were only trying to render assistance, he said. The ambassador smiled politely. He's deliberately being insulting by not giving his name and his ship's name. It's standard protocol for a captain to identify himself or herself. He can't possibly expect me to buy the render assistance line. They were far too aggressive. Plus, a scan would have picked up the signal from my personal seal on the shuttle. They knew there was an ambassador on board, and they came after my ship anyway. This isn't good, she thought. Thank you for coming to our aid, Captain. Luckily for us, the Magellan was close by, she said. As the Olmeri captain was talking, Beth put a clip of a treaty signing on a distant planet on a screen he could clearly see. If they were going to make the Olmeri believe the treaty signing happened elsewhere, showing them footage from somewhere else was a good way to start. On another screen, Namani put up some archive footage of a trade mission they completed 2 years earlier to the LNAS system on the opposite side of the local neighborhood. The footage showed them entering the system. Beth began to bring the footage together on a third screen as if she was going about her normal duties. The ambassador noticed the Olmeri captain had changed his focus. She turned slightly to where she could see Beth working with the clips. She signaled Beth to turn it off, then she turned back to the video link. She frowned and shook her head, then looked back again and frowned. She turned to face the main screen. Hardly, Captain. We are returning from some trade meetings. I'm sure you know how those go. Signing agreements, recordings, and dinners. We took an unplanned detour. Then we had some trouble with our navigation systems and ended up off course. We had to call the Magellan to come get us. Did you have trouble with your navigation too? She asked. Is he going to admit they had problems or not? She thought. No, we have no problems with our navigation. We never have problems with our navigation, the Olmeri captain replied. The ambassador smiled broadly. That's good to know, Captain. I'm happy to hear it. Since you are here, perhaps you would like to join us for dinner. I'm sure we could find many things to talk about, she said. Thank you for the invitation, but no, Ambassador. Perhaps another time, the Olmeri captain replied. Very well, Captain. I look forward to it. Another time, the ambassador said. She bowed slightly and signaled Captain Logan to close the comlink. She took a deep breath and centered herself. The doctor moved slowly away from her. The ambassador was finding it harder and harder to recover after she did something like this. While she was talking, she had used her skills to plant several ideas the Olmeri captain would believe were his own, including that she was very upset about his seeing that signing, that he could not trust his own navigation systems, that there was nothing in this sector they might possibly want. It took quite a bit of effort to hold those thoughts, transfer them, and have an ordinary conversation. Having the doctor's support, literally, made it easier. Where did you send them? The doctor whispered. I was thinking of Rigel, the ambassador said quietly. The doctor chuckled. The ambassador turned to face Captain Logan with a tired and grateful smile. Please take us home, would you, Captain? She asked. Captain Logan smiled and nodded with a newfound respect. Yes, ma'am, he said. The ambassador paused at a comlink as she and the doctor left the bridge. Kell, Namani, Beth, all of you, good job, very good job. We're going home, she said. Captain Logan watched her leave. He shook his head. He was still trying to take in what had just happened. The Olmeri were ready for a fight. They wanted to fight. He was ready to fight. If that's what they wanted, he would be happy to oblige, and she did what? She stood there calmly and invited them to dinner, and they left. He saw it, front row seat. He still didn't believe it. This is most definitely not going to be just another diplomatic ferry assignment, he thought. He smiled to himself and sat up just a little straighter in his chair. Set course for Fomalhaut. Let's go home, he ordered. The crew began going about their regular duties. The ship turned gracefully and accelerated. There would be time for debriefings and reports and all the things that had to be done later. For now, they could all sit back and enjoy today. Today was a good day. Chapter 4, Interlude. The space between is not empty. Truth is found on the middle ground. Anywhere else, a local shuttle. The council chambers on Pelscara were in a large central city that was not that much different from the large cities on Dagon. Open walkways lined with trees led to and from well-kept modern buildings. Local travel was a problem. They didn't have a transport system. It wasn't easy to get around unless you could fly one of their local craft. They had a pretty good system for managing low-level flights. Altitudes and speeds were restricted by craft and flight plan. Navigation routes were well managed. Otherwise, there weren't many options. Kell was outside the council chambers building in a small local shuttle waiting for the ambassador. He watched as the ambassador came out of the building. She strode down the walkway with far more determination than usual. She was clearly not happy. "Where to, Ambassador?" Kell asked as she got in. He was trying to humor her by pretending to be a taxi driver. It didn't work. "Not here. Let's be somewhere else," the ambassador said. Kell deftly moved the small craft into the express departure lane. They were on their way. "Could you find us a place to have something to eat, where there aren't going to be onlookers? Somewhere quiet and obscure?" the ambassador asked. "It went well, did it?" Kell asked. He knew full well from her demeanor and her request that it didn't. The only time she was on a mission and wanted to go somewhere she wouldn't be seen was when there'd been a problem. "Swimmingly," the ambassador said. "We were discussing the seating arrangements for the reception that is supposed to follow the treaty signing next month. The First Minister for Culture suggested that rather than attending the reception, I should make a few remarks, then leave. After all, it was going to be a gathering of dignitaries to celebrate the treaty signing, and why did I need to be there?" she said. Kell's mouth dropped open. His eyes got big. He couldn't restrain himself. "He said what?" he asked. He was laughing and crying and worried all at the same time. "Oh dear, I wonder if he thought. "And may I ask?" he said aloud, not intending to finish the sentence. "Yes. Why, yes. Yes, I did. I most definitely did," the ambassador replied. "Oh, the council will not be pleased," Kell said. He shook his head. He knew full well what an understatement that was. "You think?" the ambassador said sharply. She looked down. "I'm sorry, Kell. That came out very rude. I'm still fuming over this. It's not your fault. I shouldn't snap at you. I am sorry," she said. "Don't worry, Ambassador. I'm not fragile," Kell said. He nodded and smiled. The ambassador chuckled. "No, you are not, and I am grateful for that every day," she said. Kell shook his head. "I still remember that general assessment we went out to do a few years ago. The one that really didn't go well. We left the same day we arrived. When we got back, the High Council summoned you. They weren't happy," he said. The ambassador nodded. "Ah, no, they weren't. Neither was I. The introductions had just started when their regent decided he wasn't going to speak with the mere ambassador. He told me I should go ask his clerks for copies of the documents if I wanted to review their application. I tried to tell him I wasn't there to review documents. He proceeded to tell me that if I wasn't there to review their application documents, I could leave. I agreed and told him exactly what I thought. We left. The regent didn't realize what he'd done until he got the rejection notice. He filed a whole series of protests. That's why the High Council summoned me. I'll be right back." After they reviewed my recording, they agreed with my decision. They did tell me I could have made my points without quite so much clarity, she said. So I'm guessing you, Kell asked. Why, yes, I was quite clear. Very, very clear, the ambassador said. She smiled. You do have a way of cutting straight to the point when you want, Kell said. The ambassador smiled. Thank you, she said. Kell laughed and looked over at the navigation search screen. Ambassador, there's a place showing up in the local area search that seems to have good reviews. Not so many guests right now, he said. That sounds perfect. I don't want to be seen. I'll get changed, the ambassador said. She slid to the back seat and took off her outer robe, sash, and belt. She put on a travel tunic and tied her belt around it. She folded her robe around her sash and put them in her bag. Kell brought the craft down on the roof and parked it in a marked space. A few other craft were scattered in other spaces. He opened the hatch and stepped out. Ready when you are, Ambassador. Bring your sunglasses. It's bright out here, he said. Thank you. Very smooth landing. I didn't feel it, the ambassador said. She grinned at Kell as she walked out. Timing. If I brake to slow down and then just before we stop, release the brake just a bit, the craft will gently glide to rest. Mostly. Makes the landing barely noticeable, Kell said. The ambassador shook her head. Whatever it is, you are extremely good at it. Thanks. It is a bit toasty out here. How do we get inside? She asked. Kell pointed. There's a stairway in that direction, he said. Somewhere quiet. A small cafe on Pelscara. The ambassador and Kell walked across the roof to a wide stairway. 2 floors down, they entered a small restaurant. The entryway was cool and not brightly lit. Most of the light came from a bank of fish tanks that took up one wall. Much cooler here, Kell said. He looked around. It's very much like the pictures, he said. It's not crowded, the ambassador said. He sighed happily. She looked at the fish tanks. They have a fish special on the menu, she asked. Kell turned his head and smiled. Actually, that is the menu, Ambassador, he said. Oh, maybe not today, the ambassador said. Kell laughed. How about over there? He pointed to a table about halfway across the back. The ambassador nodded. Good, she said. Kell took a seat with a view of the door. He liked to be able to watch the doors, especially when they were off somewhere. The ambassador took the chair next to him with her back to the wall. She took the chair next to him with her back to the wall. A waiter came over with a small plate of pickled cabbage. They each ordered a bowl of the house special soup and a tall glass of the house special beer. The waiter came back quickly with the beer. Cheers, Kell asked. He raised his glass. It was more of a question. Not really, but sure. Cheers, the ambassador replied dryly with a bit of resignation in her voice. They both took a sip, looked at each other, shrugged, and drank more. Not bad, the ambassador said. She sipped a little for the taste. It's pretty good, Kell said. He took a long drink. So, are you going to tell me what happened? How did they get to where they were telling you not to attend? I thought you were close to a final treaty, he said. The ambassador scowled. I did too. We had finished all the text changes. It finally seemed like we were past the whole beneath my station snobbery. Then we started talking about the seating arrangements for the signing ceremony. It all came roaring back. They don't think of me as an emissary or our negotiating teams as diplomats. We are considered servants in their culture, so why should it be any different in ours, she said. How did they expect to deal with the Central Alliance Charter of Rights, Kell asked. The ambassador shook her head. That was always going to be a problem. They didn't seem to take the charter seriously. It was just another one of the negotiating points they tried to make go away, she said. Kell frowned. The Charter of Rights is what holds the alliance together. It sets out the framework for the rights guaranteed to the people on all the planets in the alliance, he said. The ambassador nodded. It's one of the keys to the basic framework. I'd finally gotten them to agree to a provisional signing. We started talking about the signing reception. The first minister decided he was going to take the center chair for the ceremony. He then proceeded to tell me that I didn't need to attend, but if I wanted to make a few remarks before leaving, he would allow it. I checked him twice. I asked him to consider carefully what he was saying. He was adamant. He didn't want me there. So I told him that I accepted his decision, congratulated him on having completed the seating arrangements, and conveyed my certainty that his dignitaries would enjoy all the wonderful food he had arranged for the reception. He seemed surprised that I wasn't making a bigger fuss. He was immensely pleased that I was leaving. Then he demanded I tell him who was going to come to sign the treaty for the Central Alliance. I carefully explained to him that as the first contact ambassador and leader of the alliance delegation, signing the treaty was my charter, and since he didn't want the signatory for the Central Alliance at the reception, there would be no signing. I went on to inform him that I would be reconsidering all the trade terms we had agreed. The agricultural support teams we had planned to send would not be coming, and that if he ever thought about dismissing any of our emissaries again, I would be pleased to ensure he was no longer first minister of anything but his own ass. Then I took my leave, she said. She took another drink and shook her head. Her jaw was tight and her shoulders tense. Kell's jaw dropped when she said carefully explained. He'd only seen her carefully explain things once or twice before. She wasn't playing. He knew the level of trust the alliance placed in her. It was well deserved. She would not have her charter otherwise. This level of insult was beyond anything he could have imagined. He had seen her tolerate all sorts of slights and stalls to try to get a better negotiating position. Someone was delayed, another had an unforeseen issue, the documentation isn't quite ready. Slights like those were common. But to come out and directly tell her that she would not be welcome to attend the signing dinner for a treaty she was instrumental in brokering and would be the primary signer for was beyond anything he could imagine. The only reason there is any treaty to be discussed at all is due to your efforts, and you're the one who's supposed to sign it, he said. Kell motioned to the waiter to bring more beer. He looked at the ambassador and shook his head. There's more to it, isn't there? There's something you're holding back, he said. They'd been on too many missions together. He knew when something was wrong. Yes, the ambassador said. She took a long drink. The waiter brought the beer and soup. He also brought some small plates with breads and crackers. They stopped talking while he put the glasses and dishes on the table. The ambassador looked down and blew across the soup bowl. Steam rose up. During every meeting, the first minister picked at the smallest details. He ranted that we were inept and incapable of typing correctly. He twisted the simplest statements into something that needed hours to resolve. At every step, he looked for another way to create some issue, some problem, some one thing that had to be solved before anything else could be discussed. And when we finally resolved that one thing, he found something else. I finally realized he wasn't interested in actually brokering the deal or making sure everything was well designed. He was interested in making me jump through hoops, she said. I don't understand. Jump through hoops, Kell asked. The ambassador nodded. It's an old Earth expression. It means to set up obstacles to make someone work harder. He wanted to set things up, so he was always in charge, always telling me what to do. Then he'd make it as difficult as possible to do whatever it was. He twisted whatever I said into something else, using the smallest variations to make his point. Then he made it clear that he thought I was intellectually and otherwise inferior. He doesn't have much use for Terrans, she said. Kell could see something was very wrong. Ambassador, you've run into this sort of thing a few times. It always makes your negotiations more difficult. But you managed it. You're still not telling me something. What else happened? He asked. The ambassador looked down sadly. We were talking about trade dispute rules. He kept interrupting. I finally had to ask him to let me finish before he made his objections. He went on a tirade. He shouted he accused me of insulting him by insisting he listened to me. Then he told me that Pelscaran females learn from childhood to be quiet when a male is speaking, and that I needed to learn from their good example, she said. Kell's jaw dropped open. He said that? He actually said that to you? He asked. The ambassador nodded and took another drink. He didn't stop there, did he? Kell asked. The ambassador shook her head. No. He started ranting about minor imperfections in the drafts. I tried to explain that everything we had agreed was included. The only difference was that we had formatted the pages to include more signatures. He refused to look at any of it. I tried to tell him that the terms needed to be reviewed and each page signed before the treaty could be signed. That's when he told me that as a mere ambassador, my views on the terms of the treaty were of no consequence, she said. She took another long drink. Kell shook his head. Does he have any idea what being a first contact ambassador for the Central Alliance means? He asked. The ambassador looked up at Kell and smiled, but her eyes weren't smiling. He's about to find out. Here's to more beer, she said. She raised her glass. Kell looked at her. He heard the warning in her voice, but he wasn't sure what she meant. It was never easy watching her try to do what some said was impossible. She'd done it so many times he'd gotten used to her succeeding. It was hard to watch her go through all of what she'd been through in trying to get this one done and have it come to this. The soup smells good, he said. He pulled his bowl closer and leaned over it. The ambassador took a spoonful. It is pretty good soup, she said. She smiled, took another spoonful of soup, picked up a slice of bread, and took a few bites. We've been trying to get this treaty signed for 2 years. It would have been a good thing all around. The Pelscarans would get badly needed expertise on land use and planting for increased harvest, plus some new equipment. The Alliance would get a preferential price on some of that harvest. But during every negotiation session, the Pelscarans found issues with petty things such as whether a trade negotiator was wearing proper attire or telling the agriculture experts they should be sure to clean their shoes. They went out of their way to be insulting. But if anyone on the Alliance side said anything about their fair use terms being too vague, they would take umbrage, claiming it was insulting their integrity to ask such questions. They pressed for full schematics and complete training on the new equipment we were giving them so they could repair everything themselves. They didn't want to be able to repair it. They wanted to steal it. It was so tiring. Every time we'd give them something they wanted, they'd demand something else, something that they hadn't mentioned previously, but claimed they had, and we had left it out. Before they sent me, the Alliance had already been through 7 teams of negotiators. The insults took a toll. The Pelscarans just kept doing whatever they could do to demean and diminish. Then they started harassing some of our, she said. She stopped. Kell looked down. That's all for tonight. Join us next time when the ambassador recalls a special gift from Master Tai, challenges the Pelscaran First Minister to tell the truth, and reveals another of her abilities in the ancient arts to Kell. You've been listening to Storytime, old time radio for a new era. Thank you. Good night.